Garland got inside Smart, faked the pass to Allen, and he puts it up and in. Garland up ahead with Okoro, goes there. Oh, Okoro throws it down with bad intentions. Dexter works on Irving, trying to get loose. He'll fire. Hey! Knocks it down.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children, you are listening live here to episode number 17 of the All Things Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. I am once again your host, Brandon Lewis, alongside my co-host, Joey Snyder.
Brandon, what's going on? You know what? Let's get into it. Trade deadline today. It'll be over in exactly 34 minutes. Going to see if the Cavs make another pickup. So many trades made today. Let's jump in.
So we are recording as the trade deadline's going on, as Joey just said. So if we get any more Cavs news, we will make sure to update you. Obviously, you guys will know by the time this podcast comes out. But without further ado, let's get to it. Because if you are watching on our video version on the We Win Media LLC YouTube channel, you can see I got our man, Caris LeVert, behind me, because Joey, after weeks, what feels like 2 freaking months of us sitting here saying, can we get Caris LeVert? Can we get Caris LeVert? Can we get Caris LeVert? Kobe Altman, listen to us. And the Cavs have acquired Caris LeVert from the Indiana Pacers, and he made his debut last night.
We speaked him into existence. I believe he was the first person that we said when we started talking about trades. What was that, podcast 3 or 4 maybe? And we said we would like to get a Caris LeVert type player. And then, sure enough, we get Caris LeVert. Couldn't be happier with the trade. We really didn't give up a whole lot for him. We gave up a first-round pick, 2 second-round picks, and Ricky Rubio, unfortunately out for the season. We only had him on for this last year. So maybe we can re-sign Ricky again next year, but huge pickup for the Cavaliers. I had a chance to go to the Spurs game last night, his first game with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Thanks to Uncle Ruben for the tickets. We had a great time. And man, LeVert just, he only shot 4 for 11 from the field. He still got to figure everything out, with the team. But you can see that he was the one thing that the Cavs were missing that he can do is create his own shot. And I mean, he still put up 11 points in not so many minutes. And after the game, Darius Garland actually said he's the missing piece. JB Biggerstaff was then asked, the same thing. They asked him, Darius Garland said that Caris LeVert was the missing piece. Do you feel the same way? And he said, we did some pretty good things before, but yeah, he offers us something that, that maybe something that we didn't have with being able to create his own shot. And man, did he look good. That team looked good last night in that win against the Spurs. And I am super excited to see what he does in the future, because when he starts to mesh with this team, oh my God. I mean, the Cavs went from a surprising team and a dangerous team to an even more dangerous team with Caris LeVert.
Yeah, I think we saw on Sunday night the game against the Pacers. Yes, we ended up winning the game by 15 points. Part of that, though, is because, again, Jetty Osman, Kevin Love gone a huge explosion in the fourth quarter. A Golden State with Steph Curry and Kevin Durant-esque explosion, if you will, to give the Cavs that victory. But you could just see it, man. Without Darius Garland, and obviously without LeVert yet, who got traded the Sunday afternoon, there was just really nobody on the floor that could create their own shot. And so Garland comes back last night. You get LeVert coming off the bench. And the one thing that I liked is because typically teams, I feel like when you try to make a trade, teams are trying to get the guy the ball in the first game. Maybe the guy puts up a ton of shots. They're just trying to get him in the flow with the team. It didn't feel like that with LeVert at all. It just felt like he was naturally a part of the team. I know he missed a few shots and he did seem, a little rusty at first coming into the game, but it is going to happen. And like you said, you could just tell the difference with him and his defense. Like that's something that I didn't notice as much when he was in Indiana defensively. It's like now that we have him here, it's like, oh, you can put him and Okoro on the court together, which was just a huge like, oh, maybe they can do this. Oh, and then when marketing gets back, who knows? Maybe Okoro goes to the bench, or maybe LeVert stays on the bench and he's in the sixth man. There's so many different combinations this team can do. It gets you excited because you're like, oh, we could put Jetty here. Oh, we could put Okoro here. Oh, we could put marketing in here. There's just it's a versatility. It's what this team has been really all season long, as we've talked about.
Caris LeVert's defensive game is underrated. And I think it's because, the Pacers were a pretty good defensive team, but they were a pretty good offensive team as well. So when he comes to the Cavs, a very defensive-minded team this year, he's going to bring that defensive game that he has. He's not an only, a player who's only pure offense. He can play defense. He can play very good defense. It's got to be the right system. It's got to be the right coach, the right players. And I think that's where Caris LeVert fits in right in Cleveland perfectly. He can play that defense. He can create his own shot. This guy is going to definitely be, I'm not going to say the missing piece like Darius Garland said. I'm glad that Darius is happy and everything the Cavs are happy to have. I don't think he's a missing piece. I think the Cavs would have done, very well even without Caris LeVert. But we have been talking forever about the Cavs have a glaring need at shooting guard. We went out and got who we wanted. And this isn't just who we wanted, you and myself. Everyone from Believeland Media has been talking and kind of had a consensus that Caris LeVert was like the perfect fit for the Cavs. Fringe all-star player. He's only 27 years old. We have him for the rest of next year. We have him for we have him for the rest of this year. We have him for next year. I mean, dynamic player, great fit, great pickup. The fact that we barely had to give up that much for him is all, makes it all the much better. And I just cannot wait for the rest of the season, see game after game how he starts to gel and integrate. And to your point real quick, yeah, I mean, this trade gives the Cavs so many options, really on different lineups. When you play different teams, you're going to, you go through your scouting report and they can literally build a starting lineup exactly for who they're playing. So I think that this, I don't know if JB would do that. He did talk about that a little bit last night, that he has a lot of options now and they're going to mess around with the lineups. So we can look forward to seeing that, over the next couple of games, next few weeks, maybe. But I mean, just an exciting pickup. Great job to Kobe Altman. Great job. I mean, what can you say? I mean, Kobe's he's been on fire. I mean, he's done everything he can to put this team in a position to win. Everyone's behind the Cavs. Let's go.
And for the record, folks, in the next, let's say 27 minutes, if the Cavs do not make a deal, they may not be done because there's going to be obviously potential suitors on the buyout market. I know Tristan Thompson was involved in a deal with Indiana. Who knows if he gets bought out, if he has any interest in coming to this Cavs team. I know we and a lot of our colleagues in Cleveland media have debated now since the LeVert deal. Do we need another piece? And if so, what position would that piece be? I know there is a lot of talk about Dennis Schroeder and the Cavs having interest in him from Boston. I know you are a big fan of that move. I sit here though, and I think about this. So, okay, if you have Schroeder, you have Garland, and then Rondo is still in the mix. Well, then we also cannot forget, like we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks, our man Colin Sexton is also coming back into the fold. So you add him, LeVert, Okoro, Osman, Garland, Rondo. I feel like personally we are set on wings and guards. I think if we need to make a move, I think personally it should be for like a rim protecting center, because outside of Allen, we don't really have a true five. Mobley can play it a little bit in spurts if need be. Love has played it in the past, but I think that's one of the reasons why Ed Davis somewhat is still here and why he starts when Jared Allen misses games, because he can at least protect the rim.
Yeah, but you also have to think that you could move Markkanen down to his natural position of power forward. So, I mean, really, you have Love, Markkanen, Allen, Mobley, Love, and Markkanen. You really have four big men that you have down there. And let me explain why I am not a fan of bringing in Tristan Thompson. Number one, the drama. I don't want the Tristan Thompson drama that he created for himself. It's not something that I want the Cavs to have to deal with. If you want to go after a big man, okay, let's see who's out there, and that's another conversation. Tristan Thompson's not the guy for us. I would not want him on the Cavs. And going back to Dennis Schroeder, we don't really have Rondo has been playing great the last couple of games. He's still a bit inconsistent. He's a veteran presence. He's a leader. A lot of players have said that. Just recently, I think it was Jared Allen. I think last night they said Rondo was showing him pick and rolls that he kind of has had over, that he's developed over the past, I think his entire career. And they really appreciated him showing some new moves. But I think Schroeder's more of a natural fit to really give you better production behind Darius Garland. And the reason that I like him is because I don't know what it would take to get him, and that's kind of my one thing. It would have to be some draft picks and maybe just something to match the money. I wouldn't give up any player of consequence for him, but I think that he'll give you the better production while Rondo brings the experience. And in the end, that's kind of where I'm at with that. I mean, you can play, and he kind of gives you the option to play a little bit more small ball as well.
Hey, listen, your breakout candidate of the year going into this season was Dylan Windler. And as we have talked about, I feel like he is kind of the forgotten guy. Like we talked about him very early on in this season. He's been hurt, obviously, but he can knock down the shot. To me, I think that would be, maybe either him or, some sort of like Ed Davis or somebody. I know they're probably going to release Pengos. Or probably one of those guys is the only guy the Cavs are willing to give up in a trade at this point, because as I texted you over the weekend, to me, it was a bad sign for Windler, a guy that the Cavs drafted when they desperately needed somebody to score the ball against Indiana prior to the fourth quarter, when Cedi Osman just did his best LeBron James impression and took over the game and won us that game basically with that 18-point barrage in the fourth quarter. But besides that, they were looking around. Brandon Goodwin couldn't make a shot. Kevin Love could not get hot. Jared Allen was struggling from the floor that game. That was another weird Pelicans-like game. I know the Cavs love these defensive games, but man, they needed somebody to score. And it's like you could at least put in Windler there, gave him a couple threes to maybe see if he could get going. And the fact that he could only get in with a minute left in the game when the game was pretty much over, to me was a bad sign for his future. Maybe I'm reading too much into it.
I think that kind of coming into the season, they had their eye on Dean Wade and Dylan Windler, and it was kind of one or the other. I don't really think that they expected both of them to really be on the team, truthfully. Windler is actually shooting, I want to say either 41% from three. He just doesn't get into the game. I mean, he gets in the foul trouble very easily. He's not a terrible defender. He's not the best defender. I mean, he's tall. He's like 6'8", I think, 6'8" or 6'9", and he has such a smooth three. I thought that he was going to be someone who could give the Cavs, great bench minutes, but they're going in another direction. I think that a change of scenery for him, given an opportunity on another team, would really benefit him. And I'm kind of hoping that they do. because I like Dylan Windler. I just don't think that the Cavs have room for him. So, if they're able to get rid of him, a change of scenery for him might be pretty good.
So speaking of rotation, what is your best guess when LeVert finally does get acclimated to this team? Because I've been going back and forth because we have talked about this the last couple podcasts of, hey, listen, Okoro is their best defender. Do you really want to put Okoro on the bench? Because I don't think they're going to move Okoro, I don't think that they are going to move Markkanen, Mobley, or Allen out of the starting lineup. I think that they are consistent. They want Markkanen at 3, they want Mobley at the 4, and they want Allen at the 5. So we know Garland is at the 1. Now you're, to me, debating between Okoro or LeVert at the 2.
I'm actually not going to answer your question because I have no idea. Like I said, there's so many different rotations that you can honestly put in there that it would make your brain, make your brain hurt. I think you almost have to start LeVert at the shooting guard because he can create his own shots. So that right there, Okoro cannot do that. And even though Okoro has been doing great, with scoring a little bit more as of late, I think he's had maybe like one or two poor games. He's still getting it 12, 14 points. And excuse me. Ooh. He's still his defense is second to none. He can lock down anyone. So, that's kind of tough. That's kind of a tough thing. But honestly, you kind of got to look and say, okay, well, is Markkanen coming off the bench a bad thing? Because you could put in, like you want a rim protector in there, but and again, this is why I don't, obviously I'm not the coach of the team. Why not have Love at power forward, Markkanen at center? I mean, Markkanen's taller than Jared Allen. He's a true 7-footer.
Right.
There's so many different things you can do. But if it was my best guess, I would say you're probably not going to move Markkanen out. They might keep him in there unless they see something. This team keeps on winning, and by the time Markkanen comes back, they've only maybe lost one game or since the trade, or maybe no games, and then they're like, well, Okoro at the 3 has been working out pretty well. So
to me, unless there's a team that like really figures out the Cavs big man lineup, because we talk about this all year, the Cavs are so big, teams are literally still having a hard time adjusting to it because the Cavs remind me a lot of like a 90s basketball team. They're very old school. They're very defensive. Listen, we are 50, 53, 54, somewhat type games into the season. We know who this Cavs team is, in my opinion, at this point in the season. They are a defensive-minded team. They can explode. They can score points. They don't do it often, but when they do, I said it very early today in the podcast, the Indiana explosion was literally Golden State-esque nuclear explosion. I mean, it went from like, we're in a 69-68 game, like it's 90-70 in a blink of an eye. That's what championship teams do. And so I just, me, I don't like messing up the chemistry and some of that unless you absolutely have to. And obviously, that's why I'm not the head coach of the team. JB Bickerstaff is. Let's transition though, Joey. Let's get into some NBA trade talk around the league because we usually don't do this. We usually stay Cavs kind of local, talk about the Cavs, a lot to talk about, but folks, let's be honest. This NBA trade deadline has been crazy. There has been a big trade today that impacts the Eastern Conference in whichever way that you can think of it. The Sixers obviously sending Ben Simmons to Brooklyn in exchange. Philadelphia getting back James Harden. Joey, I want to know your thoughts, man, on this blockbuster deal.
So, this is going to be a very unpopular opinion, but I actually think that this trade hurts both teams. I don't think it helps either team. I think, number one, you had I think Brooklyn, their fans, and the team itself had such high hopes for Harden, for Durant, for Kyrie to make this thing work and to win a championship. Harden obviously was not happy with what was going on and was able to force his way off of another team. Ben Simmons hasn't played the entire season, has lost, I think, $18 million thus far. He forced his way off of the team. If I'm going to be 100% honest here, so let's kind of go over what the exact trade was. The Brooklyn Nets got Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, a 2022 first-round pick, and a 2027 first-round pick. And the 76ers got James Harden and Paul Millsap. So here's my thoughts on that. I think the two best pieces that Brooklyn got was Seth Curry and Andre Drummond. They needed a center, and they got a dangerous guard with Seth Curry. Ben Simmons, we have not seen play this year. He can't put up offensive numbers like James Harden. He's a great defender, but they're losing offensive firepower, and they're going to have to rely on other people. Now, Seth Curry might be able to take that, that pressure off, but are they going to start him? We don't know. We don't know what that lineup's going to look like. So, in my head, this trade doesn't benefit anyone, but we'll see as the lineups start going and we start seeing these games being played. And on the opposite side, James Harden is the biggest defensive liability in the NBA. So a Sixers team who has one of the top three players in the league, in my opinion, and Embiid, how is Harden going to impact Embiid? Because I kind of feel like Harden needs the ball, Embiid needs the ball, and Harden, you might as well not even have a player out there playing defense. It's like playing, 5-on-4. That might be a little harsh, but Harden is definitely one of the worst defenders in the league. So a team that was really, known for their defense, no longer, they're going to have a huge liability on the floor. The one thing that I'll give up to the 76ers is they didn't have to give up a Thibault.
Right.
They were able to keep him. So, I honestly, we'll see how it plays out. If Ben Simmons can play Ben Simmons' game, maybe 15 points, 10 boards, 10 assists, then then it might be a little bit different for Brooklyn. The two first-round picks, I did not expect them to get. I thought that was pretty high. So, we'll see how it works out. I personally don't like the trade for either team, so I was hoping that they would get the trade done because I think it makes both teams worse. However, we'll see what happens in the future.
So with Brooklyn, I don't understand the fit with Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant. I understand Ben Simmons is 6'10" and he's this and he's that, but okay, Ben Simmons is a point guard. He is as first point guard who literally refuses to shoot a jump shot and make it. And so when you have a guy like that out there on the floor and they don't have a true center, I don't think Andre Drummond is going to start for them. They have LaMarcus Aldridge, who may be a little bit undersized and he's a veteran. Like, I just feel like for right now, when Kevin Durant is out, Kyrie Irving obviously cannot play home games, so it's going to be Ben Simmons on the floor by himself. I'm trying to wrap my head around, like, okay, so if Ben brings the ball up, then what? Because Kyrie sometimes just goes isolation and does his thing in road games, and what is Ben going to do? Stand in the corner? I mean, from a lane perspective, it's like, yeah, they're tall, but I don't know if Ben Simmons makes that big of an impact on their team. For Philly's case, as you were talking about Harden in Houston, I thought about the trade Houston made 2 years ago because they got rid of Capella when they still had Westbrook on the team. They went completely small ball, and it worked for a couple games, and then obviously the pandemic hit, and that was pretty much the end of that experiment. But you're right about Harden on the defensive end, but Joel Embiid, you're right. I mean, I love Joel Embiid. I've said it. I think he's the best center in basketball. I think he makes anybody work. I think he is supremely talented, and I think James Harden is a willing passer. And so I think they're going to be able to play off each other. Do I think this duo is the best duo in the NBA? And do I think they're the best team in the NBA? No, I don't. I think that they are a better team with James. To me, there's no doubt about that, in my opinion, at least. I think that they are I think them, Milwaukee, and the Cavs, the way I look at it right now, I put them in no particular order as the three best teams in the East. I'm not going to put Brooklyn in that conversation because I don't trust Kyrie Irving. I don't know Kevin Durant's status because Kevin Durant could walk back out on the court. Let's be honest. Kevin Durant's the guy from SpongeBob now with Paper Jones. With Paper Bones, excuse me. He gets hurt pretty much every time he steps out on the court. Paper Jones. I apologize, folks. I'm on a rant here. So I don't. It's hard because I guess my bottom line is I don't feel threatened for the Cavs' sake by this trade. And at this point, that's what I have to look at because obviously our team for the first time since the 90s without LeBron James is in legit playoff contention.
You know, honestly, the only team that I would say I am worried that I'd be a little worried about is Miami. That's the team you didn't mention. Miami they're just a very good team with a good bench. Tyler Hero could potentially be the sixth man of the year. I still think it's Kevin Love in my opinion, but I am not worried about any of these teams in the East. It's going to be a very fun playoffs to watch because there's a lot of really good teams. But I can't say that I'm worried about any team because of how much confidence I have in the Cavs. So, guys, as you're listening, it's 2:52, 8 minutes left until the trade deadline ends. Still waiting to see if the Cavs make any sort of move.
The Cavs did not, but for reference, I don't know if you just saw this, the Washington Wizards did make a move.
I did see that.
They are acquiring Kristaps Porzingis from Dallas, which, it's an interesting move to me from Dallas's perspective, because where is their length going to come from? I know Porzingis has always been hurt throughout his career, but I just feel like now, they are one of the best teams in the league. And Spencer Dinwiddie's a really good player. He's going to work with Luka Doncic, but they are also losing size. And, we see it here in Cleveland with our Cavs. Our team is big. So, if we match up with Dallas, which we will here, by the way, towards the end of the season at the Fieldhouse, I don't feel like that move makes Dallas any better.
That's a really weird trade to me. So the trade before that was the Wizards acquired Montrezl Harrell.
You mean the Hornets?
I'm sorry. The Hornets acquired Montrezl Harrell from the Wizards for Vernon Carey Jr. and Ish Smith. So that is why they were able to pick up Kristaps Porzingis. But I think David Bertans is I think he's a very underrated player. He's kind of in the mold for me. It's like a Joe Ingles or a Joe Harris, or
right.
A good a solid maybe bench option. He can hit the three, but he can drive as well. But Spencer Dinwiddie, I've always liked Spencer Dinwiddie's game, and with them already having Jalen Brunson, I just don't know where that fits in. I mean, that's a really odd trade for me.
Yeah.
For the he's a great player, but I just don't know where he fits in on that team. So
this trade deadline just as a whole has been weird. I mean, Sacramento acquiring Sabonis from Indiana, McCollum being traded to New Orleans out of all teams, not even a playoff contender, New Orleans, and then Portland taking some of those pieces and dumping them. I mean, let's
talk about that trade real quick. So the Indiana Pacers got Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson. The Sacramento Kings got Domantas Sabonis, Jeremy Lamb, and Justin Holiday in a 2027 second round pick. I'm going to be completely honest here. The Pacers got Halliburton, who I did not think the Kings would ever part with. I thought that maybe they would get rid of De'Aaron Fox. I didn't think they'd get rid of Halliburton. That's a great pickup for the Pacers because now I don't think they need to trade Miles Turner. Miles Turner's still young. You could pair him with Halliburton, and that's great. Buddy Hield is a weird pickup because he is not an upgrade by any means over Karis LeVert, who they traded to the Cavs.
They're basically the same player. I mean, how many times did we say Hield or LeVert?
Yeah, but I think LeVert is. LeVert's a better player than Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield's a great. He might be a little bit better with a 3-point shooter, but he's not a better defender. He's not a better shot creator. So and Tristan Thompson, who I don't know. The Kings got Sabonis, great. Maybe top 5 power forwards in the league. To pair with De'Aaron Fox, Davion Mitchell now has a spot as a shooting guard. Jeremy Lamb and Justin Holiday, great bench players. If I'm looking at this trade, it kind of makes sense for the Pacers because they now got their point guard. They still got Brogdon, who's out.
Right.
So, but Brogdon can also play the shooting guard. So, I think that trade kind of helped out both teams who are looking to make change the scenery a little bit for some players, and kind of an odd trade, but I think they kind of worked out for both teams. Next, let's get into the Blazers and the Pelicans. Pelicans got CJ McCollum, Larry Nance Jr., and Tony Snell. The Trailblazers got Josh Hart, Tomas Saransky, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, a 2022 protected first round pick, and a second and 2 second round picks. CJ McCollum's getting up there in age. It's not where it didn't work out with him and Dame. He needed a change of scenery. I thought, Larry Nance Jr. out. He's been hurt pretty much the entire season. Everyone in Cleveland loves Larry Nance Jr. And Tony Snell is just kind of player to throw in there, probably to make the salaries match. I like the Blazers getting Josh Hart. He's played great for the Pelicans this year. I think that he's a nice piece, even though there was another trade that the Blazers made that kind of makes me question that. Saransky has already been traded, I believe.
Yes.
As has Nickeil
Alexander-Walker. They both were packaged up in another deal. So, too, though, for the Pelicans are in such a weird situation, right? Because it's all about that number 1 pick that they selected in the 2019 NBA draft, who has not played a single ounce of basketball this season. And that team, led by the way, former Cavs general manager, the architect of the 2016 championship team, David Griffin, it felt to me like, hey, let's just throw McCollum at the wall and see if it sticks. And maybe we get Zion back next year and see if something happens. But, McCollum is a really nice player. For his sake, I would want him to go to a championship contender because I don't see New Orleans really going anywhere, especially this year. And we'll see what happens next year because I honestly don't know what's going on in that Zion Williamson camp. It sounds like 1 minute he's healthy, then the next second he's not, then the next second he's going to come back, and then the next second they're shutting him down. So, New Orleans sports, man. We thought we had it bad in Cleveland. New Orleans, they watched their head coach at football. They watched their quarterback. They picked the number 1 pick who they have barely seen in 2 or 3 years. Man, do I feel bad for that city.
I just don't see CJ McCollum making the impact that they're probably hoping he's going to make. Mm-hmm. Brandon Ingram has been, he probably should have been an all-star this year. So, he's playing great. He's got him in a position right now. I think they're in the 10th spot or something like that. So, maybe they thought that this would push him over. Maybe it will. We'll see as the season plays on. As we kind of keep going through the trades. This happened 6 days ago. I think right after our last podcast. The Clippers received Robert Covington and Norman Powell from the Trailblazers for Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson, and a future second-round pick. have no idea what the heck the Trailblazers were doing there, because Covington, we've talked about him as someone that we like for the Cavs off the bench, and I've said Norman Powell I liked as well. This makes the Clippers, I think, a pretty good team, especially with Kawhi and Paul George, still hurt. If Kawhi gets, if Kawhi's healthy and Paul George is healthy, I mean, these four on the court together, Robert Covington's a 3-and-D guy. You got Kawhi, who's one of the best defensive players in the league. Norman Powell can put up points in bunches, as can Kawhi, as can Paul George. That's a heck of a trade, in my opinion, for the Clippers.
So as we sit here today, the Clippers are currently the number 8 seed in the Western Conference. If the playoffs started today, they would match up with the Phoenix Suns. So the Clippers, who we have, kind of talked a little bit off the air about, because they're a very interesting team. They remind me a lot of the Lakers last year, where they were a 7 seed, but you really didn't know what you were going to get because Anthony Davis was hurt, LeBron was hurt. You didn't know if they were healthy or not. Well, this Clippers team, it looks like they're going to probably be either the 6th, 7th, or 8th seed. They're going to match up with either, it feels like, a Memphis or a Golden State or a Phoenix. And if Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are both on that court, hey, we saw it last year. The Clippers, without Kawhi Leonard, took the Phoenix Suns, the team that made it out of the West, to 6 games. Of Paul George playing some of the best basketball we have seen him play in the last couple of years. That is something that we're going to have to look to down the stretch here at the trade deadline, as it is officially 3:01 p.m. Eastern time. The trade deadline is over. So obviously, if any news filters in here, we will let you know. You guys will obviously know at a time when this podcast is posted. But Mr. Snyder, it is official. The trade deadline is over, and it is officially time now to look forward to kind of the second half of the season. I know next week we're going to be doing a big All-Star podcast, get you guys ready for All-Star weekend with all the festivities going on. But then after that, we are in the home stretch, and the All-Star game is not exactly halfway through. The Cavs have about, I believe, 30 games or so left in the regular season, along with every other team in the association. So now is the time, man. We are getting into March Madness. The trade deadline is over, and we can finally forget and dream about all the players, and we can just move forward and look forward to some great second half of Cavs basketball, which, by the way, we have 4 meetings with Philadelphia, one starting this weekend, which we'll preview here in a minute. 4 meetings with Philly in the final 2 months of the season. Very key games those are going to be, along with the game in Brooklyn and Milwaukee to end the season. Those games, and I don't like looking too far ahead, but just from a schedule perspective, those games could be the difference between playing one seed and another, or avoiding another team in another round, because all of these teams in the East are very stacked together.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing to see, how the Cavs do, moving forward. Let's not jump the gun on saying we don't got stuff to talk about, because we still got the buyout market happening, and we know that the Cavs might be looking for something there. So there still might be some news coming out of there.
By the way, real quick, your man Dennis Schroeder did get traded.
Oh God,
not to the Cavs.
Who do you trade it to?
Dennis Schroeder is now a Houston Rocket.
What did the Rockets give up?
So the deal is, Houston is trading Daniel Tice to the Celtics. Houston is getting back in return Ennis Freedom, Bruno Fernando, and Dennis Schroeder.
That's one of the worst trades I have ever heard. Does that make either team better? I think it makes both teams worse.
Certainly doesn't make Houston better. Say that. I don't think it certainly doesn't make Boston better. So
wasn't Daniel Tice on Boston already?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. He was down at the end of the bench. I don't know what. I mean, honestly, the Cavs definitely. I mean, I think Windler's a better player than any of them that they got. Could have given him some more cap. Could have given some more cap space and Pangos and Windler and a second round pick or something.
Maybe Boston didn't want to get hit with a Dennis Schroeder buzzer beater in the playoffs. Now I'm kidding.
That's it. That's probably what it was. Before we kind of go into the full-fledged just all things Cavs, what was your favorite trade that you've seen?
So, favorite trade that I liked, or just favorite trade overall?
Of all the trades made, besides Karis LeVert to the Cavs, you can't cop out like you did in the first podcast with breakout player, or I'm going to take our Evan Mobley, our third pick, as our breakout player. That's not no. So you can't pick Karis LeVert because I think that's both of our favorite trades. What one trade from another from any two teams that are not named the Cavaliers was your absolute favorite?
You know what? A sneaky under the radar move to me, and I hate saying this, but to me, it's Milwaukee getting Serge Ibaka. I think Ibaka adds length. I think Ibaka is a veteran. He can shoot the three. When he was in Oklahoma City and Toronto, I used to call him Ibaka because that's what he does. And so when you're looking at a championship team, and they obviously gave up Dante DiVincenzo to Sacramento, a guy that I know the Cavs were potentially interested in. But I think he is a guy who, and you look at it from a Cavs perspective again, he's going to add length to a team. And I think Milwaukee is gearing up to face either Philly or us in the playoffs. And so when you're dealing with a Joel Embiid type player, when you're dealing with the length the Cavs have, this is a guy who has playoff experience, who can stretch the floor. They have Bobby Portis already. They may be getting Brook Lopez back for the postseason, who's a big guy who can also stretch the floor. You had Giannis in there with Chris Middleton and with Holiday. That's just another piece that I think adds another layer to Milwaukee's depth, and I think it's a good move by them.
Yeah, I mean, that's not bad. I just, Serge is past his prime to me. I think that, maybe, he's one of those guys that can have, a solid game maybe here and there, but it's still a pretty loaded, Bucks team. I was surprised about that DiVincenzo trade. I think that was a good pickup for the Kings, honestly. But I'm going to tell you my favorite trade. The San Antonio Spurs have basically blown it up. They kept DeJounte Murray, who, let's face it, he is an all-star. I mean, he's got how many triple-doubles this year? Yep. They didn't trade Jakob Poeltl.
No.
He's been a great center all year, and I believe he's still young as well. So my favorite trade, they did trade Derek White to the Celtics. And they got Josh Richardson and Romeo Langford. And they got a 2022 future first round pick, protected 1 through 4, and then swap rights on the 2028 first round pick. So Derek White was a great pickup for the Celtics. I'm gonna give him that. But basically my two favorite trades have been anything involving the Spurs. They're looking to blow it up and kind of start over, but they traded. So my favorite trade is they gave the Toronto Raptors Thad Young, Drew Eubanks, and a 2022 second round pick for a 2022 and a 2023 first round pick in Goran Dragic. And then they're just going to buy out Dragic, so it's pretty much for just the picks. For 2 first round picks. On top of that, then you go to the Derek White trade. They got another first round pick and swap rights in 2028. So they essentially have 4 first round picks in the next 2 years. Like, that's, if you're looking to blow up a team and rebuild, that's the way you do it. You keep the players that are, that are young and good, and you're going to get, at least 4, young players, and you have Greg Popovich coaching. That, or you could draft 2, and then, maybe you use some of those picks to lower
a potential superstar trying to make a deal, because we know San Antonio isn't the biggest free agent market. And listen, since 2017, and I know obviously you saw them last night, the Spurs have been irrelevant. I mean, a lot of people call them the broccoli of the NBA. They're just like there. Like they used to be such a fun and cool brand. They used to be almost, some people call them the Patriots of the NBA. That dynasty team that obviously beat us one time in the finals, have gone to what, 3 or 4 finals in my lifetime. And ever since, Tim Duncan retired and Kawhi Leonard got out of town, the team has been irrelevant. I don't really blame them for blowing it up. They definitely have pieces. But with that, let's go ahead, Joey. Let's preview the next 3 games, the final 3 games of the All-Star break. We got Indiana on Friday night. Hopefully we take care of business in the Fieldhouse, the only other NBA arena I know that is called a Fieldhouse. And then we will go to Philadelphia for a huge matchup at the Wells Fargo Center. And because we play them 3 more times this year, it's okay, Philly. You don't have to play James Harden Saturday night. Okay, you can get his physical. You can get whatever he wants. You can not have him. Hopefully the Cavs can take advantage and win that game. And then the Tuesday game at Atlanta. To me, that game before the All-Star break is a real interesting one, because Atlanta, after struggling to start the season, and they were a team that, as we talked about all year, they were the number 5 seed last year in the Eastern Conference. They overachieved last year. They really struggled to begin the year. They are really hot right now. Trae Young and crew are playing at the top of their game. That is a sneaky, underrated game, in my opinion, for our Cleveland Cavaliers. And I'm going to say that they go 2-1. I'm not going to say which games they win. I'm not going to say which games they lose. I'll just say we go 2-1 heading into the All-Star break, and then we are off to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse for what should be a great weekend of basketball.
3-0. They're not losing the game. They're going to take care of business against Indiana. I see no reason that they would lose to Indiana. But I also said that about Detroit, and I also said that about Houston, and they lost both. But yeah, this team they're just going to get better and better and better. Now we got Caris LeVert. We've talked about all season how they're young, they're going to get better and better, and they got to learn to win the games that they need to win, that they should win. So we'll see how that goes, but I think that's a win over the Pacers. I hope they play James Harden. I think if they play James Harden, the Cavs are going to score 130. I want to see James Harden guard Caris LeVert, and Caris LeVert will put up another 42 points.
I think if he's available to play, I think he will play. I don't know if he's going to be available. It doesn't have to take like 48 hours to approve the trade, get the physical.
Yeah, but it's 48 hours from now is 3:00 on Saturday.
Yeah. I know.
I want him to play. You're playing a ghost.
You know what? I was thinking about it too, and I was like, yeah, I want him to play too. But then I'm like, you know what? We do have 3 more games again, so I'm like,
Embiid is a monster, but I think that Jarrett Allen is probably the second best center in. I'd say second or third best center in the East, next to Embiid. Embiid's,
which
Embiid's
by the
on
way,
a level.
Don't give me. I don't understand. We are going to find out tonight, obviously, which team Darius Garland is on, Team LeBron or Team Durant. But the way they come up with these All-Star voting is, obviously they separate them East versus West. Don't ask me why they only put 1 center on the East and why they put 4 centers on the West. Don't understand it. J.A., in our hearts, you are an All-Star. You're going to show it Saturday night against your own beat.
I'm going to say this. DeJounte Murray was selected because there was two people. Draymond and Durant are not playing the All-Star game, and Adam Silver had to pick the replacements. He picked DeJounte Murray, who 100% deserved. Who 100% deserved to be an All-Star. 100% agree with that pick. LaMelo Ball is a good player. I do not believe he deserved to get in over Jared Allen. Not one bit. I think that it was the name. That's what it was. It was the name, and that was it. You're not good. I mean, what else could Jared Allen put up 29 and 22 while Adam Silver's watching, and he goes for LaMelo Ball. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. J.A. got snubbed twice. He should be an all-star, but he's Cleveland star. You guys need to go ahead and check out my article on Believeland Media LLC on Jared Allen being Cleveland star. He's my favorite player on the Cavs. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. No offense to anyone else on the Cavs, but gotta love Jared Allen. He brings it every night, walking double-double. Had his, 29th double-double last night against the Spurs. Should have been an all-star, and hopefully he plays with a chip on his shoulder the rest of the season.
By the way, took it out on Charlotte Friday night, getting a double-double literally in the first half, almost the first quarter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's amazing. I think he's honestly the heart and soul of the Cavs. Big man in the middle. His stats are off the charts. As far as some of his ranks in the league. So, should have been an all-star. It happens. Play with that chip on your shoulder and let him know next year. Also, finally, last game against the Hawks. Hawks are a good team. They're surging. Cleveland Cavaliers are the Cleveland Cavaliers, taking the Cavs in that game too.
All right, Joey. Well, thank you so much. Well, before we wrap up today's podcast, folks, a special announcement, because as you guys know, me and Joey have been doing this Believe Win Media, all things Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. We are on episode number 17. We've been going strong for over 4 months. But, folks, I'm just going to say it, and if I'm not allowed to say this, Kevin Sleds, our owner, I apologize, but
don't
right now,
say it.
we don't get paid for doing this. And so we are looking for sponsorships to sponsor with Believe Win Media LLC. As you guys know, we are a sports media company that covers the Browns, the Guardians, and our Cleveland Cavaliers. We have all of those podcasts, including Den of the Dogs for the Browns, the All Things Cavaliers for our Cavs podcast, Guardians of the COA for the Cleveland Guardians, Future Guardians of the Land, which is, of course, hosted by our owner and operator, Kevin Sleds, which is Guardians prospects and affiliate teams. The Mic Drop podcast, which is a general sports podcast. We also at Believe Win Media have a 6th podcast starting soon covering professional wrestling, if you guys are into that, and local Ohio indie wrestling promotions. All our audio podcasts can be accessed on all the popular platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, etc. We are sharing that video on our podcast via the Believe Win Media YouTube channel. Since opening for business in November 2021, Believe Win Media has grown immensely. Currently, the podcasts are averaging 100 to 150 downloads per month per audio podcast, 450 views on written content, and 3,000 website viewers. All of these continue to trend up each month as we continue to grow. We expect 2022 to be a big year for Believe Win Media as the company continues to grow. As we said, there are different sponsorship packages for different sponsors to look at, ranging from $50 to $200 a month, or you can pay in a one-time payment. Quickly here, I'm going to go over the lowest package, and then I'll give you the highest package. So the lower package at $50 a month is an ad in the sponsor section of the website, BelieveWinMediaLLC.com. You also will get a weekly sponsor blast on all company and podcast social media accounts, which is Facebook and Twitter. And then the higher range at $200 a month includes everything from the first package that I just mentioned, 20 to 30-second ad run on all of our shows, the logo and link to the Facebook page or website on all written content, and also your logo for your company on all video podcasts. Here at Believe Win Media, we are really passionate. My favorite thing about Believe Win Media is it is everybody from all aspects of life, whether it is a young college graduate like myself or whether it is somebody just looking to get into the field at a little bit of an older age. Believe Win Media is literally for everybody. So if you know any company, does not have to be sports related, you can contact our owner, Kevin Sledge, at BelieveWinMediaLLC.com. for more future details. I know Joey has already trademarked the Great Wall of Cleveland, and if you know anybody that would like to be involved with us there or anything else future related, make sure to contact us, because here at Cleveland Media, we are looking to grow immensely. And so we thank you very much for potentially sponsoring with us. And so with that, Joey, I'm going to let you have the last words for today.
You don't get paid?
No.
You might be the only one. No, I'm just kidding with you. Guys, you know, we love doing this, and we'll do this for free forever if we needed to. But if you want to help support Cleveland Media, and we just keep growing in such a rapid pace, it's really unbelievable, and it's due to all the great people we have working here. You know, hit up Kevin about you know, a sponsorship, but you know, what can we say? Trade deadline came and passed. We were maybe kind of hoping the Cavs would get in on Dennis Schroeder. Can understand they wanted to stay pat. We got our guy. We got Karis LeVert. Let's not get too greedy here. I can't wait to see what the future holds, and hopefully we can pick up some wins, these next 3 wins, get that #1 spot before the All-Star break. And Brandon, you know what to do.
Don't forget to let them know, folks. We'll see you guys next week for our NBA All-Star special. And peace.